right, welcome to the 305 Guys on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick in the 5 Reasons Sports. I got Alex Donno. You can follow him at Alex Donno. Going to talk a little bit of Dolphins today because I simply can't talk about the other team. Your team is fine, but we're not going to talk about the team that I cover on a more regular basis. They just blew another 17-point lead. Not last night. Right now. They had one. Right now, we're just not watching. They just blew another one. We're sponsored by our friends over at Prize Picks. Don't blow your lead. You got $5. Put it in there. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. They're going to give you $50 to play. That's at prizepicks.com, the Google Play Store, or the Apple App Store. This is the official fantasy partner of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. And also our friends over at 305 Guys and 5 on the Floor. Again, the daily fantasy partner of us. Why? Because it's the simplest to play. Play up to 6 players together across the sports spectrum. Can you put down 5? You get 50 to play right away. You can see not a great NBA slate tonight, but there will be better ones to come. And you can play all of the other sports as we go forward here. So check it out. It's prizepicks.com. Use the code FIVE. All right, Alex, let's talk about the Dolphins because they're in this interesting place here where I think, over time, I've been critical of them. Others have been critical of them for trying to win the offseason at all costs, try to steal the headlines, and then it doesn't really build the kind of team that they need on the field. And then we see that in December, it's constantly kicking the can down the road financially. They have a very smart guy there named Brandon Shore who does similar work to what Andy Ellisberg does with the Heat, and he finds a way to make the numbers work. The NFL cap is a little more flexible than the NBA cap, so you can do some things. And so, again, I've been critical of them at times for sort of going for the big names and all that at the very start of free agency. Well, they didn't do that this time. They were actually the last team to sign a free agent of any kind, okay? And of course, we heard fans complaining about that. So let me ask you, because if Chris Grier's done some good things, and there are some good things, I know both you and I were in favor of them moving on, which they'll never do. He's going to outlast both of us. But if he's done some good things, it's like he got Jonnu Smith last year in free agency. Oh, yeah. He made some signings that have worked out for them over time. What was the approach that you preferred them to take before we get into Zach Wilson and where they've headed so far?
I mean, I'll say this. I still feel like we're kind of still clinging into a win now sort of window. And I know that they haven't won now during this win now window, but I still feel like we're still clinging to that a little bit. So I don't know. I guess I'm a little bit frustrated that now we suddenly see what seems to be a pivot in the approach of, instead of going after the shiny objects, we're going to be a little bit more measured. We're going to spread our budget out a little bit more evenly. Honestly, the more measured approach, it's the wiser one. It's a better way to build foundations. I mean, when you had some, teams that have been, consistently good over the past, 20, 30 years, the Steelers were up there for a long time. The Patriots, although they got a little lucky with a certain 6th-round pick at quarterback a few decades ago, but, the teams that take that more measured approach and draft well, the 49ers and Eagles, of course. So maybe that is the better approach, but it seems like a weird time to pivot from that when I still feel like they're kind of in that win now window, and they may have had an opportunity to try to make bigger splashes in trades and free agency. So I just think for where this team has been for the past 5 or so years, maybe that kind of go grab the big guys now may work. But you know what? To be fair, because I don't want to be a hypocrite, Ethan, I have been critical of Chris Grier in the past couple of years, like wondering if he's going to be making moves that are more short-term rather than long-term. Maybe he is. And like you said, he'll probably outlast all of us. Maybe he does realize his job security is better than we thought it was. So he's taken a more measured approach. The issue that I have, and we'll get into it, and we're going to talk about the specific names. The issue that I have with the moves that they're making so far is, what is this obsession that Chris Grier has with guys who have injury histories?
I don't know. I don't know.
It's like every player the Dolphins agree to sign. It's like, oh, he's played like 6 games in the last 2 years and he suffered 3 injuries.
He thinks he's getting a mark down, I guess. It's like basically you go to I don't know. I mean, you go to a place and you can get damaged clothing, right? Like you're at Plato's Closet or something like that. Like it is odd that he always goes for injured guys. I know our guy C.K. Parrott, Chris Kaufman, of 3 yards per carry. This is his big thing. It's like he has a list of players Greer's going to go for, and they're all injured guys. And then and they've already taken 2 off the list. And which
Yeah.
is, they always go that direction, and that's a frustration. I think that is definitely relevant. You know what? Again, I don't want to be a hypocrite about it. I think a more measured approach makes some sense. He may
Yeah.
think he has more job security than we believe he should have, and that is what is allowing him to do this. And that is, I guess, the benefit of having some kind of security. But when we go through the specific players here, this is a team that has significant holes, and they do have a draft pick stash where they can deploy to some of this, but they're pretty much not really good anywhere, in my view. Like where you just like they're set. I think pass rusher is one place that I look at and I'm like, all right, if Phillips comes back healthy again, we say about this every year. If Chubb, okay, they renegotiate the contract, comes back healthy. They Chop Robinson, right? So the one player that they're in on is Nick Bosa. That's
Injury history again. Yeah. Joey Bosa,
well,
not Nick. Yeah.
Joey, Nick, yeah, both of them. I get them.
I would take Nick.
I would take right. Well, I'd take anybody but the father, right? John Bosa, the one they drafted way back when. But that's the thing is that they're going after that now, and I know they were in on Greenlaw, right, which makes some sense as an inside, as a linebacker there, but they. Javon Holland, I'm fine with them letting him walk. I cannot remember a play he made since week 1. He was on Twitter a lot, but like, what did he actually do on the field? Seems like an overpay for the Giants. He talked about
honestly,
how he
the last big play he made was when Fangio left and he had that where he kicked the can. And it was like he was trolling Fangio. That's what I remember Javon Holland most.
Yeah, well, he kicked the can right to it. He kicked the can right to a Super Bowl championship, Alex, because that's where Fangio ended up. He did. I will say this: he made one play. He had this strip in game 1 that won the game 1, and then you never saw him do anything. I mean, the guy who was making plays for them late in the season was Dotson, and they haven't re-signed him yet. He came on at the end of the year. And I know Cater Coe is somebody they prioritize. He played well, I thought, as the year progressed last season. But let's get to who they actually picked up here. Let's start with the quarterback position, and then we'll address the guards, okay, afterwards. Here's my issue with this. I understand that you make an upside play. I get it. Okay, that makes the sense. It makes sense to go get a backup quarterback who you think has potential to become something. But Tua is going to miss time, right? Can we just establish that, right? He didn't 2 years ago, but he's going to miss time. Do you and I both agree on that? That's the odds.
I mean, there's based on the last 7 years of his career going back to college, there's probably a 90% chance he's going to miss at least one game next year. So yeah, you've got to have a backup quarterback who's going to keep the ship floating while he misses time.
Okay, so I watched Zach Wilson play in preseason last year a little bit for Denver. I thought he looked better than he looked with the Jets.
Sure.
Right. Well, anybody looks better than they look with the Jets, right? We just saw what I don't know.
And in preseason, it's like how many times was Skylar Thompson was preseason MVP like every year?
Until this year. And bringing up this Zach Wilson.
Yeah, but bringing up this Zach Wilson thing. So go ahead. Sorry, you were winding me up.
Thompson, Skylar Thompson is QB1 in Pittsburgh right now. Come on, that's what they've got right. My friend is freaking out. No, I get it. Preseason is not the regular season. Okay, I understood. He looked a little better. People are saying Sam Darnold and Geno Smith both left the Jets. It took a decade for Geno Smith, and then they looked better afterwards. And then, of course, Seattle just basically takes them. Miami's now. This is the 6th quarterback from the Jets that they've had that I can remember. Boyle, Pennington, Lucas. Where are we at now? Fitzpatrick.
Fiedler was a former, wasn't he? Oh no, he was with the Jets later. Sorry,
he was with the Jets. He was with the Jets after. He was from Long Island, but he was with the Jets after.
Yeah.
But okay, right. But here's the thing about Zach Wilson, and this is my issue with it. All right, is that Zach Wilson is a project. Now he's an arm talent, right? He can get out of the pocket, but he's a project. Honestly, if you're not going to get somebody to compete with Tua, which Zach Wilson's not going to do, and they don't want to do, right? Then I'd rather get somebody that when you put him in the game, you kind of know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And this idea of McDaniel, I kept seeing this out there yesterday. Maybe McDaniel can fix him. Doesn't McDaniel have other things to fix right now? Like, why are we talking about like, oh, he's going to fix him as like he fixed Tua, like he's a quarterback guru now? Like, I need McDaniel to fix the locker room right now. I need McDaniel to fix the time that it takes to get plays in. I need McDaniel to fix some of the play calling if he continues to want to do it. Like, I don't like. Why do we need a quarterback project that he has to devote his time to at this stage? I would have much, and I know Garoppolo wasn't really an option there because he decided to stay put. But to me, getting a veteran guy even with lower potential upside, I would have been at least he was competent. I would have been better off with that. That's how I view it. I mean, what's the upside for Zach Wilson? So say he fixes him and what? Then he goes and gets a contract somewhere else the next year. It's a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
It's a 1-year deal.
Right. It's. I mean, to me, there could be high reward potential with Zach Wilson, but I think the risk outweighs the reward because again, if you're the Miami Dolphins, if you're a backup quarterback, it's one of the best spots to be because you're going to play at some point. Like, the guy that we have is not as good as he is when he plays. He's most of the time anyway, is not going to get through 17 plus healthy games. So, if you sign in Miami, Zach Wilson is not going to be in the situation he was in Denver last year where he played in 0 games. I think he was actually their third stringer. So he probably wouldn't have played anyway, but he played in 0 games. Like that's not, he knows he's going to play at some point in the regular season, maybe even the playoffs, because Skylar Thompson had to do that a couple of years ago with the Miami Dolphins. And so, there is obviously a high reward potential, former first-round draft pick. And, we know Chris Greer loves these guys. If you can get somebody at a bargain who was a high draft pick in the past, he likes to take a gamble on these guys. So the arm talent and the potential was there at some point. But to me, the risk factor, Zach Wilson, in my mind, is a very unproven commodity. Very unproven commodity. He hasn't actually played in a regular season game since 2023. Didn't play well in any of those, most of those regular season games with the New York Jets. The last time we saw him was actually in a game against the Dolphins 2 years ago where they knocked him out with injury. And so, I see, and you're not the only one who's brought up the awesome preseason that he had in Denver. Like, I guess that's encouraging. But again, preseason is the only thing we've seen from Zach Wilson in games in the past 2 years. And that's now your insurance policy behind Tua Tagovailoa. I hope it works out. But again, it's a high risk, potentially high reward proposition that he works out as your backup quarterback.
See, I don't even think it's high reward. I'm with you. I think it's high risk. I don't even think it's high reward because he's not going to be with you beyond this season anyway.
Yeah.
So you're simply talking about what we talked about before last season, which is what if Tua misses 4 to 6 games? What do you do? And we saw what happened. They fell apart. Okay, like they fell apart. Like that sunk any chance they had in that season. Having Skylar Thompson, I mean, the other guy they had who was a Jet was Mike White, right? I mean, here's the point here, and I'm not saying Jets fans are the most sane because they're not. I grew up one way back when, but Jets fans were celebrating getting Zach Wilson out, and they made Mike White into a cult hero. Our Mike White, Pembroke Pines is Mike White, and the Dolphins decided last offseason that Mike White was so bad in camp that they kept Skylar Thompson and no one else over him. They went into the season with just Skylar Thompson, who was not a competent NFL quarterback, over Mike White, and yet Mike White became a folk hero. You know why? Because he wasn't Zach Wilson in New York.
Right, yeah.
That's how bad Zach Wilson was. I don't know. I'm having a hard time I'm having a hard time understanding the point of it. I think if Tua was an older quarterback who you were planning to move on from, and you take Zach Wilson as that kind of flyer quarterback and you see if you can develop him, I get it. But if you're not going to get someone to compete with Tua, which they do not want to do, then you have to get somebody who you know what you're going to get when you put him in there. And
what does that mean? What you just pulled up? What does going to the bank of Tua mean? Do you know what that means? I don't.
That's a good question. I don't know. Indade, if you want to throw that out there, you can. We're going through some of the comments. They're coming in fast and furious. We appreciate you guys following the show. Let me mention the sponsor, and let's get to the offensive line after it, which is probably more important in the grand scheme of things. Well, maybe not. I said last year backup quarterback was going to be the most important position. It turned out to be. So who knows? Maybe it will be again. All right. Want to talk about a great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. You know what's important? You know where you need protection? I mean, don't protect your house like Chris Greer has protected Tua Tagovailoa over the years. You got to use All Pro Construction Builders. Go to allproconstructionbuilders.com. Quality is their specialty. 305 484 4429. I'm sorry, this comes up from midday. There are people in the ER waiting room that Greer can sign. 305 484 4429. Family owned business, family owned and operated. They use local materials. They use the best materials. They are the best people. You got to reach out to them. All Pro Construction Builders, Danny and his team. 305 484 4429. That's 305 484 4429. We know a lot of our audience is in Dade, Broward, and Monroe counties. That's what they serve. And again, you can check out their Instagram at All Pro Construction Builders. Again, allproconstructionbuilders.com. All right, the offensive line here. I'm gonna defer to our guru on this. We have a guy named Coach Eric Smith. He coaches offensive line. That's what he does. One of the things he does, and you can follow him at OL Coach Smith 63. And he put up a video. What did the Dolphins get in James Daniels? So they've broken him down. And then, of course, there was the other player that they signed that everybody was freaking out about last night because they're looking at him as a starter. Borum,
Larry
he's
Broom?
probably Borum, yeah. Where he's probably going to be a
Borum.
yeah, he's probably going to be the third guy there. It seems like a Kendall Lamb replacement more than anywhere else. I am not equipped, honestly, to do the offensive line breakdowns like others are. I will say that it's good that they're addressing it. And we'll see what James Daniels becomes. It was clear that they missed Robert Hunt last year. They didn't extend him as one of those deals, and then he ended up going out and getting a lot of money. I mean, Patrick Hall's development this year is going to be critical to this team. I just hope that the Liam Eichenberg experience is over for good. And I just don't trust him with the line. That's the thing. I don't trust Greer with the line. I trust him with some other things, maybe kind of. I don't trust him with the line, so I'm going to defer all judgment on any of this. It's good that at least they know that they need to address it. They're going to need to continue to address it in the draft. I just think they just need to keep throwing resources at it until something hits. I mean, that's where they're at right now. But I guess the problem, Alex, is are there other things on this team that require resources? They signed a safety to replace Holland, but he wasn't one of sort of the 7 or 8 projected top replacements there. They've lost a corner in Kendall Fuller, who played okay for them last year, but it was considered to be a big signing at the time. The receiver position, they're still tiny. I guess they still got to go get that big physical receiver to help Tua there, but maybe that comes in the form of another tight end to complement Smith. But what do you think? Where do they go from here?
I think they go in that direction. I wish they could have found like a true marquee offensive lineman. I guess some would say that, Daniels, again, another guy that was pretty highly drafted, guy's former 39th overall pick, which is, an early second rounder. And he's had some meaningful starts. He started, most of the games he's played. I think 86 games he's played in, or 84 out of the 90 games he's played in have been starts for him. But again, this is a guy who's coming off of a torn Achilles. He only played in 4 games last year. That's another reason that makes the James Daniels thing a risk. To me, the trenches are what the Dolphins really need to invest in because, if you look back on what to me have really limited this team, during this supposedly win now cycle that they've been on, where they haven't won a playoff game. They've made the playoffs more often than not, but when they get there, they have not been tough enough at the point of attack. So I want to try to get this offensive line fixed. And obviously, like the defensive line, if you can get everybody healthy at the same time, it looks like you've got a lot of potential there. And, I know I've said some negative things about Chris Greer, but, Chop Robinson turned out to be an awesome first-round draft pick. So Greer seems to have nailed that one. And if we can get Phillips and Chubb healthy, we'll see if the Dolphins are serious about Joey Bosa, or if that's more of like more of just like a shot kind of thing, because he may really want to be in San Francisco to play with his brother. But again, Bosa, like you mentioned, is a guy who's got a really rough injury history the last couple of years anyway. But I mean, to me, line of scrimmage has to be where this team needs to make their bones now.
It is, and again, it's just general physicality for me. It's beyond that. It's also, like I said, getting a physical receiver. The safety play, I think, obviously the safety play was not good last year. That's why I'm not really missing Holland. Obviously, they picked up what's his name from Buffalo, and that didn't Poyer. That was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you pretty much on defense know right now. It's crazy. Jalen Ramsey got hurt right after he came to the Dolphins, and yet I trust him more than a lot of these other players on the Dolphins roster right now to stay healthy. I mean, Waddle hasn't missed that much time, but I feel like it's always a question with him because he's just not that big, and there's always a series missed, and we still don't know what's going to happen with Tyreek here. I mean, they are. It's funny. I tend to be more pessimistic on them, and yet our guys at 3 yards per carry tend to be more optimistic. Two of our three guys at 3 yards per carry are very pessimistic right now. CK and Simon. Alfredo is going to fight you to the death, but we love him. But like they are. It seems to me like, and I caught 3 yards per carry this week, but also Simon on Twitter. I said I think they'd be 7-10 as is looking, and he says I'd be surprised if they're that good. I mean, if it's worse than that, then I mean,
Wow.
I'll just ask you, who does Chris Career hire next as his head coach? Because he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, he'll
I
get
don't
to
know.
pick the next head. I don't know. He's going to find somebody. He's either going to find somebody nerdier than Mike McDaniel, or they're going to go the complete opposite, and they'll find the next Dan Campbell from somewhere.
It'll be a Campbell clone. It'll be
Yeah,
a
they'll
Campbell
find the
clone.
complete opposite.
That's what they always do. You just go replace
Yeah,
them with the other
yeah,
guys. We'll see. Like I said, I'm trying to be patient here because again, I've said don't sort of blow it all at the beginning. Save what you can and try to be tactical about this, and there'll be more June 1st cuts and all that. But I'm still looking at the roster. I'm saying there are a lot of holes on this team. There are,
yeah.
and it's crazy because like last year again, Kendall Fuller. Oh, they got Kendall Fuller. Well, now Kendall Fuller's gone. He's like, well, whatever. They'll easily replace. I mean, if you thought the guy was that good to begin with, then you need to. And they're thin in the secondary, and what you need more than anything else these days are corners, safeties, nickel
Yeah.
guys. And I don't see a whole lot on this team that I love other than Ramsey and like I said, was good last year. All right, Alex, we appreciate it. Thank you for the 23 minutes, which I got to basically avoid thinking about having to go back down to the arena tomorrow night. Can we just
think,
simulate
yeah. You
the
should. I
rest of that
mean,
season?
they would still end up with the same playoff seed or play-in seed if you simulate. It won't be any different, and you should catch some Panthers games instead to turn your frown upside down.
And you should. And even they had bad news yesterday with Ekblad, but I mean that's all right.
Yeah.
I mean they'll be fine. See, they have bad news, but then I saw Brad Marchand, who I went to his press conference yesterday, talk about adding a personality to the roster.
That's weird. It's still weird thinking about him being a Panther. Like it's very
he was
odd.
on the ice today back in
I know.
Boston. Like this
I
injury was
know.
supposed to be 2-3 weeks. He's magically
Yeah.
healed. It's just like Jimmy.
Yeah.
His joy is magically restored. All right. Appreciate it. Michael Desire here on the comments. You know what? I'll just leave this here. We can close with this. There you go. Okay.
There.
Have a good day, everybody.
See ya.